Welcome to Dream by Design with Melissa Banks, where women share their dreams, struggles, and successes. How they were able to persevere despite the fear and create the life they want and deserve. If you're looking for inspiration to move you past where you normally would stop, then this is the show for you. Here's your host, Melissa Banks.
Welcome to Dream by Design with Melissa Banks. I am super excited today, guys. This is a special occasion because we're kicking off our brand new season that we're super excited about. We have some amazing women coming to share with you their journeys and how they were able to keep going. But today's episode is a special occasion because we have a really special guest joining us today. Our guest today, and we're doing a video podcast, which is even more exciting for us. Our guest today is not the one and only Cyrus Webb. Cyrus, everybody knows who he is, but let me just tell you, he's an author, he's a poet, he's an artist, he's a media personality, he's the editor-in-chief of Conversations Magazine, and of course, he's one of Amazon's top influencers. Help me welcome to the show, Cyrus Webb. Thanks for joining us today, Cyrus. How are you?
I'm doing amazing, Melissa Banks. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited. I've wanted you to be on the show for so long. I'm excited that you finally said yes. And this is really odd, I have to say, to be interviewing the master interviewer. So show us some grace, be kind to us in this episode, and we're going to try to get to know you.
Melissa, I am excited about it. You're a great interviewer, so I know this is going to be great.
Oh, great. So when I was thinking about interviewing you, I was thinking there is so much you do, so much in so many different places. Where would we start so that our audience can really get to know you and something about your journey? So I thought the first place to start, which is where I think is the beginning of it all, which is the radio station. Help me understand the inspiration behind the station and how did that all begin?
Well, thank you again for having me. Really appreciate it. And you're right. The radio is my oldest child. We celebrated 20 years of radio this year. And it honestly was not planned. And a lot of people, I started telling the story more now. The show was not even supposed to be the format that it is now in 2023. When we first started the show, it was called Let's Talk with Cyrus Webb. It was that for all of 2 episodes, because when I first started the show on WNPR 90.1 in Jackson, I was going off the format of the station owner, who was Charles Evers, which a lot of people in the state of Mississippi and even outside the state know, the brother of Medgar Evers. And he had a show called Let's Talk. And so the format they were thinking about for me was for me to be able to talk about topics and then have people call in. That did not work. Because it was not something that felt really right for me. I'm not the person who just openly gives my opinion about things. It's not who I am. So when I was doing the very first episode, I knew it was not doing well. But I had someone call in, Melissa. This was July 2003. Someone did call in about 15 minutes into the 30-minute show, and I was just rambling at this point because nobody was calling in anything. So the handyman, who was my producer at the time at WNPR, he says, "We have a caller." I was so excited. So we had a caller. And I still remember this to this day because I'm still in contact with her. Her name is Angela Sarton. She's now married. But she called and she's an artist friend of mine. And she called in, she was listening to me online. Melissa, I didn't even know the show was online at that point. I just thought it was on the radio. She's like, "I'm listening to you online and I'm so proud of you." And something, I believe it was God, said, "Cyrus, ask her about herself." And I said to her, I said, "Angela, for people who don't know you and your art, why don't you tell them about yourself?" And when she started talking, Melissa, I knew that's what I was supposed to be doing. Not talking about Cyrus and what Cyrus thinks, but letting other people share their story. And that was the birth of Conversations Live.
Wow, you know what? That was so powerful. One of the things we talk about on the show is a lot is being willing to pivot when something doesn't happen the way you had it in mind. Now, you could have made a different decision when you saw it wasn't working and you said, oh, this is not a good idea. I'm not
Right.
going to do it.
Right.
But to see that this is what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm just supposed to be doing it a different way. So thank you for sharing that. So one of the things I did want to talk about is recently I heard someone quote you, and they said that a quote that you say is, books are the gateway to the world. So that's the next thing I want to talk about is your love for books. How did that happen, and where in this journey did you fall in love with books, and what did you mean when you said that?
Yeah, I fell in love with books before I fell in love with people, Melissa. I have I have always been a reader since I was my mother will tell you, Cyrus, if Cyrus had to choose between people and books, people would miss out. I have always been a reader. Now the funny thing is, reading is not something that was really big in my immediate household. My mother and father were not big readers, but they encouraged me to be able to get whatever I wanted to get. Let me go to the library. A lot of people who know me from growing up actually started a neighborhood library, Melissa. I don't think you knew that. In my neighborhood, the first time I was ever in the newspaper was I started a neighborhood library, and I did that by doing some volunteer work and getting a donation from Scholastic Books. And I had my little thing in there where you could write out what date you put it. So I've always loved books, and I think books have. I'm not college educated. I don't have higher education, but books have let me know about topics like sports, entertainment, things going on around the world. I've all learned through books, and the great guests that I've been able to feature, I would not have had those opportunities if I didn't read their books, learn about their lives, learn about their viewpoints, and then be able to have those conversations with them. So that's why, for me, books are the gateway, because they really have opened up the world to me. I've never been across the world, but because of books, I've been able to learn about places like what's happening right now in Israel and Palestine, knowing the dynamics of the people and being able to understand what the dynamics that they're living under. All of that happened through books for me.
Wow. I can resonate with that, Cyrus. When I was growing up, I was the reader. I was the one that was always reading. And one of my reasons for reading is I could pretend that I was one of the characters in the books, and all the love stories and the things that I used to like to read back then. I could place myself outside of my current environment. So I can definitely resonate with that. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about is Conversations Magazine. This magazine is exciting because you not only get to talk to authors about books, but you talk to entrepreneurs, you give businesses and people a place to be spotlighted that they may not even have that opportunity otherwise. So talk to me about why the magazine came and what was the inspiration behind that.
I did not plan on starting a magazine. That was never a goal for me. The magazine came, I was 3 years into doing the radio show, and my audience for the radio show was growing because, again, I didn't know initially the radio show was even heard outside of Mississippi. So I started getting reached out to by different publishing houses across the country, different authors who were coming through Mississippi, wanted to, stop by the show. And I would have people say, hey, that interview you did with New York Times bestselling such and such, is there somewhere I can go and read that? Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, there's nowhere you could read it. It's just gone. But then I got to thinking about, because one thing I'm very big on, Melissa, and I talk to you about this and others, is knowing your audience and knowing what your audience wants. So when I started hearing that more than once, that told me there was a need for that. So Conversations Magazine started off as a blog. So I started off taking those interviews and actually being able to transcribe them. And so that was how it all started for me, was Conversations Magazine. And then in April 2006, we came out of our very first print issue with Brandon Massey on the cover. And that is still special to me because a lot of people don't know this, but this is a fun fact about Conversations, because I started the radio show in 2003. In 2004, I started the TV version on 16 WAPT. And Brandon Massey was the first person to appear on the radio show when he came to Mississippi. He appeared on an on-camera interview with me for Channel 16, and he was on the cover of the magazine. He was the very first person to do all three platforms before it became what it is today. So Brandon and I have always had a special connection. See, he's gone on to become a New York Times bestselling author, but his very first visit to Mississippi, we featured him on our platform. So it was very special for me to have him on the first cover of the magazine, and now we're published, of course, through Amazon. When we first started the magazine, it's a funny story. Of course, I mean, I didn't know, again, what I didn't know. So I started off printing the magazine at Kinko's. That's how it started. So we were stapling it together, and then we advanced. When we got a little bit of money, we went to Office Depot. We got fancy then. We had fancy glossy paper at that point. And then now, of course, now since 2019, we've been published now through Amazon. So it's been really an extremely exciting ride. To be able to see the growth of it, to see the people we've been able to feature, some of the biggest names in entertainment. We've had Viola Davis on. We have Sid the Entertainer getting ready to come out. We have some surprises coming up for December for our Person of the Year. And so it's been really great to see the growth, but it all began from people asking, where can I read that interview?
You know, your journey, I think so many people miss some really powerful parts of your journey, because now we see this guy that seemingly doing it all very easy. Everything that he touches is being successful, and we never really think that he had to pivot. He had to start at the beginning, just like the rest of us. But what did it for you is that you were willing to change when change was necessary. You were willing to just start even when it wasn't perfect. And I just wanted to make sure our audience don't miss that in your journey, that it wasn't what it is today when you started it. So right. You had to start it at the ground. And another thing is, you weren't always interviewing people that you only read about, people that you only saw on TV, which is, you have those opportunities now. So right. How does that feel for you though, to be your normal client that you're interviewing is somebody that you looked up to for a long time? Now they're sitting on one of your platforms talking to you. How is that feeling to know your hard work paid off in that way?
I love that question, Melissa. Thank you for that. But before I answer that question, if you don't mind, I'd like to say one thing.
Okay.
I think the other thing about my journey that I've learned, and you and I watched someone that we both respect recently talk about that, and that's Tabitha Brown. No one thought anything I did would work. When I first started in radio in 2003, I had people who will smile in my face today that told me it wouldn't work. When I first started on TV, on camera, people told me it wouldn't work. When I first started the magazine, people told me, and I'm talking about people in my home state, which I love my home state, but people who, you know, are around you. So I said that to say, not only did I not start where I am now, I haven't always had people believe in what I wanted to do. You know, and I think it's important for people not to miss that, because people will not always support you. People you think will be in your corner will not be. When I first started with radio, people would look at me and say, well, that's not going to work. Who are you? You don't have any experience, you know, and I was not open, you know, I was not welcome with open arms in any platform that I ended up dominating, by the way. But for me, it was bigger than that. And I think that's the thing. You have to really believe in yourself. You have to believe in the vision and believe that you have something that nobody else can offer. I don't compare myself to other people, Melissa, you know that, but I know I have something that the world needs because it was given to me. And if it was given to me, it's up to me to be able to share it. So with that being said, you're right. It's been an interesting thing for me and that's one thing, even when I started, when we made the transition from Let's Talk to Conversations Live, it was important for me. It wasn't celebrity. We didn't have celebrities on. Well, actually, I was about to say we didn't have celebrities until 2004, but that was just the next year. But we grew quickly. But I think we grew quickly because I was very passionate about being a place where people just come and talk. You know, people can come and talk and share their stories. You don't have to be known. You know, we were talking to everyone. Mental health was something I was talking about in 2003. You know, in Mississippi on the radio show. Suicide, we were talking about that because I've experienced those things. So I was talking about things that made people feel comfortable sharing their own stories. So to the point you're making, it is so fascinating to go from having read people over the years to watching them on television to then now sitting down with them or having their number in my phone or them texting me telling me, great job or keep it up, and how much they're impressed with me. It's a humbling thing, but thankfully I'm not defined by it. What I'm defined by is, am I staying true to the purpose that I've been given and I believe in, and the mission that I believe I have. And I think as long as I'm doing that, doors will continue to open, whether I interview another celebrity or not. But I think for me, the fact that I've been able to grow the way I have, Melissa, and now, just like today with Cupid, I was just talking, messing with you about that. This is the time we're having this conversation. He sent me this nice message. Keep in mind, people don't know, we've known each other for a decade. I don't talk about it, because I don't talk about everybody. Yeah, I know, but he's like, man, you just don't know how much your book review meant to me, and just to have that kind of respect, it means the world to me.
Wow, thank you for that. If you're just joining us and wondering what's going on, you're watching Dream by Design with Melissa Banks, and our guest today, we're kicking off our new season, and our guest today is Cyrus Webb. Cyrus Webb is an author, artist, media personality, editor-in-chief for Conversation Magazine, and an Amazon top influencer. So we have to talk about Amazon. We can't talk to you without talking about all the success that you have over on Amazon. Talk to us about that process, because just in this short period that I've known you, we've known each other since 2019, I believe, but that Amazon platform has just taken off with a whole life of its own. Yep. So, and you do it so seemingly easy from the outside eye. Talk to us about that process and what that's meant to your journey.
I did not see that coming. I did not see Amazon, and it really, from my perspective, was by accident. But we know nothing really happens by accident. But I had a bad experience with a product that I do not name, but it is a fruit, where I wanted to share some reviews of some music that I had gotten. And this platform that is a fruit that I do not name, I was having problems posting my review there, even though I had bought the music from the fruit, okay? So when I reach out to customer service, because I'm a nerd that does that, I reach out, and say, and they asked me what type of devices I had, and they said, oh, well, we make it more difficult for those who don't have fruit products to post on the site. And that made absolutely no sense to me. And I'm like, I bought this from your site, and I can't review it on your site because I don't have your product. I didn't get that. So I started looking for a place to post my reviews. Well, that's when someone said, well, hey, you could post them on Amazon. This was in 2010. If you had told me in 2010, when I went to post what were really just music reviews at the time, and then later became book reviews, and now everything, that I would become one of the country's top review, I would not have believed it, because that wasn't in the plan. I wasn't trying to become a reviewer. That was not the plan. I just wanted to share my thoughts as I do with everything else. I wanted to have one on the platform. But that's also why I have the sense of loyalty to Amazon that I have. And I mess with people about the fruit because I think it's funny, and because I can. And Amazon, in the 13 years now that I've been on the platform, it is not an exaggeration, Melissa, to say Amazon changed my life. And it changed my life in ways that I don't even think people really understand. I would not have had an interview with Billy Ray Cyrus if it was not for Amazon. Mm-hmm. And I want people to think about that. Now, the reason why I say that is because what people don't realize, Amazon has their own publishing company. And they were the ones who published Billy Ray Cyrus's book. So because of my reviews, they booked me an interview with Billy Ray Cyrus. And so I never would have had a connection with Billy Ray Cyrus outside of Amazon. And so that became a whole nother thing, because then people saw, he interviewed Billy Ray Cyrus, one of the biggest country, at the time, one of the biggest country artists out there. And that built our rapport even to this day, 13 years later. So I said, Amazon, what Amazon has done for me has been outstanding. Now being, of course, one of their own camera personalities with Amazon Live, that has changed things for me over the past 3 years for sure. So yeah, that has really been a surprise for me. I did not see that coming, but I've embraced it. It's been hard for me to embrace because it's a lot of success that's come from that. It's a lot of recognition that's come from that. But it has definitely changed my life.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I always say that God can dream bigger for me than I can dream for myself. And
Mhm.
that is a perfect analogy to that, because when you went into it, you were dreaming very small for yourself. You just
Right,
wanted a simple thing. And then
right.
look what God has been able to do. I want us to talk a little bit about your journey from the other side, Cyrus. Some of the things that may have been a challenge for you, or challenges for you that you had to work through. I would love for you to share something with us that you had a challenge that you had to overcome, and how you were able to overcome that and keep going.
I can sum it up this way, Melissa. My biggest challenge has always been me.
Mhm.
I was not a person who was bullied in school. I've never gone through abuse, never gone through any type of neglect. I have always been the person who doubted me the most, who hated me the most, who didn't trust me the most. Um, and I say that because people would tell me, again, going back to my love of books, I absorb things very easy. So in school, I was smart, but I never saw myself as being smart. I thought, well, they're just telling me that. They don't really think I'm smart. My first suicide attempt was because of that. I mean, I thought, you know what? They don't really, they're just saying that to make me feel good. And so I think about self-hatred is real.
Mhm.
It's a real thing. And I think a lot of times I share my story, but I also give the caveat of saying I never discount anyone's pain or what anyone has gone through, but I definitely don't think we should ever neglect the idea of the dangers of self-hatred, because
Mhm.
self-hatred will not only cause you to do harm to yourself, but in some cases we've seen will cause you to do harm to others.
Mhm.
You don't want to be here and you don't want anyone else to be here. You're not happy, you don't want anyone else to be happy. So I've been very open about that when it comes to the importance of dealing with your mental health, dealing with really getting to a place where you could love yourself. I didn't get to a place where I loved myself till I was 21. And that was after my third suicide attempt. And I realized that I was here for a reason. It dawned on me that I was here for a reason. And I started at 21 changing my whole perception of how I saw myself. And I never that's why what other people say to me, it doesn't bother me, because my issue has never been with anyone but the person in the mirror. And I've
Mhm.
been very fortunate in that. Now, for some people, they have gone through bullying. Some people have gone through physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse. I've never dealt with any of those things, but I have had to deal with the fact that getting to a place where I loved me, trusted me, and that gets to another thing that Melissa and I talk about a lot, that is protecting my peace. I'm a
Mhm.
big proponent in protecting your peace. That's a big part of my self-care.
Mhm.
So from whether you're my parents, family members, I have learned the power of no. I've learned the point of letting your yes actually mean yes, and not saying yes just to make sure someone else is happy and that I become unhappy. I've understood that for me to be at peace, someone may be disappointed, and I've become okay with that. So that is not easy for everybody. I used to be a yes person because I wanted people to like me.
Mhm.
So I did things, but it was killing me. It was literally killing me. And so I realized that, you know what, in order to be happy, Cyrus, you have to do what makes you happy. And that's what I've been able to do now for 22 years.
One of the big key points that you said a lot, but one of the things that I take away from what you said is when you came to the place where you could believe in you.
Hmm.
I talk about all the time is believing in yourself. If you start right there, then everything else will line up for you. That will change your life. It will change your thought process, and it will change who you are. And if you can believe in yourself and continue to move on. Thank you so much for sharing that story. I didn't know a lot that you just shared myself just then. So in the moment, though, Cyrus, when you're a lot's happening with you all the time, but when it's a lot going on, though, not I mean, it's all great stuff. It could be all great stuff, but it's just a lot.
Hmm.
You get up as early as you can. I used to teach that in order to extend your day, you have to get up early or stay up late. That's the only way to get more hours in a day.
Hmm.
But you can get up early. You do get up early, and you work consistently, you have an amazing organization where you get things done in such an order that that I admire so much. But in the moment of this day is just overwhelming. I don't know what do I do today because it's too much for me. For me, I may go and sit and have a cup of coffee. I may read a scripture that encourages me. What is it that you do on those days to just refill yourself and encourage yourself?
That's a good question. So for me, it may be stepping outside, walking around does it for me. I have very personal challenges. And by that, I mean, you're right. Most of the time, the things I'm dealing with, they're not overwhelming, but it does feel heavy sometimes because it's a lot. So I've given myself permission to step away. Sometimes I just go and lay on the bed, just to separate myself from devices. I do my best also to schedule time just to kind of decompress because I think that's important. I don't think you should be grinding 24 hours a day. I think when I say I grind all day, it doesn't mean every hour I'm doing something, Right. And I think we have to be careful with that too, because I don't think my personal belief is that that's not actually healthy because you need that time. Yeah. Because otherwise you're really just existing. You're not really living. Exactly. You might as well be on the job. Because things just start blurring together. One of my regrets is that I don't take the time to just kind of step away and just kind of really embrace all that's happening because my schedule is so full. I don't typically have that luxury. I wish I had done a better job of that over the years. I've been the past couple of years, breaking up my day better so that I can kind of reflect more, but I'm still not the best at it. But I think that's the best thing for me, not to feel like I have to be on all the time, right? And I think, anyone who feels that way, I think you have to remember what you're giving up. And you cannot pour from an empty cup.
That's right.
So you have to give yourself that grace of saying, I'm going to step away. Melissa believes in treating herself. I do my version of that. But yeah, that kind of helps me to just kind of stay even and not feel overwhelmed. I can honestly say, and I was telling someone this recently, that I've never had a day where I felt lost. I don't feel lost. I don't feel buried by what I'm going through. It does sometimes feel like, wow, all of this is for me. I still feel that, that I get to have all of this. I have that feeling sometimes, but I'm very grateful for it all. And I think that gratitude definitely helps me a lot too.
Absolutely. Well, we cannot end this conversation without talking about how important it is for you to give back to the community. Everybody who knows you do things for the teachers, you do things for your hometown community. You have these community relationships, and that's really important to you. So in all of your success, that's still been important to you to make sure you give back, and you give back to all of us that are in your circle. You're constantly feeding into us. Why is that so important to you?
Well, and I appreciate you saying that. 2 reasons it's important for me, Melissa. One, because I've benefited from it. I've had, I tell people I grew up in a family that we didn't have a lot financially, but there was a lot of love there. And what I've had to learn, Melissa, and this has been really important for me to say out loud, love shows itself in many different ways. And what I have learned and what I appreciate about my family is it's not like my mom and dad were always there because they were working. They worked a lot. My mom worked 2 jobs. My dad worked all day. So I was with my grandmother, which is why I have such a relationship with my grandmother, who ended up moving in with her to help take care of her. And so we had a special relationship. But what I realized about that, some people would say, oh, your parents were there, but that was their way of showing love and making sure that we had what we had. We didn't have a lot of time together. We weren't that family that sat around and had meals together. We didn't do that. But I understood why they made the sacrifices they made. And it's because, for my brother and myself. So I saw that. I saw what that love looked like. I saw what love looked like with the teacher when I had a speech impediment. I couldn't finish sentences. going to middle school and the teacher staying after school and helping me to have the voice I have today. And then coming to my very first book signing and her celebrating that with me. Mm-hmm. That is why it's so important for me, because people have poured into me over the years. And what I have learned is I've had to get more comfortable with that being known, because there's a lot of things I do that I don't just advertise. Mm-hmm. I just do it because it's the right thing to do. That's how I feel. Yeah. But now I have a platform that I can use and bring other things in, thanks to Amazon, bring brands in and do amazing things. But I don't want people to think you have to have Amazon to do that. You don't have to be able to give away stuff. Go and read to a child in school. Mm-hmm. Go and volunteer at a library. I make calls sometimes to businesses and say, hey, is there something I could post for you? Do you have a special or anything going on I could share with my audience? No cost for that, because I feel like that's important for all of us to be able to grow. Right. So that's why it's important to me. And it's a very genuine part of me. I don't do it for the attention. I do it because I have the platform to do it, and because I believe it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Cyrus, this has been such an amazing conversation. I'm so grateful that you took the time to talk to us. But before we wrap up, is there anything you can share with us that's coming up? What's coming up for the rest of the year or into 2024?
I will share, but I want to say this, Melissa, how proud I am of you and what you have been able to do in the time we've known each other since 2019. It has been just remarkable watching you. I love the fact that you've been able to use your voice to motivate and inspire women, also to show what it means to have longevity in business, and also not being afraid to pivot. You've done that. You've been able to step outside your comfort zone. Even this show that you're doing, it's not something that you initially planned on doing, but the way you've embraced it, now getting ready to celebrate your third season, which is exciting. So I just want to celebrate you for a moment, Melissa, and all the great things that you're doing, including being an award-winning master event planner this year. So congratulations on that. As for me, I will give you an exclusive. Because that's just the kind of person I am. So yes, we have a lot of things coming up as we're wrapping up 2023. One of the big things that is coming up for me is I have a very big surprise for our audience that I'm going to be bringing in December. I have a brand new show that we're going to be premiering in 2024. We're going to be making the official announcement at the end of November. It's called The Conversation. I teased this on social media a little while back, but what it is, it's a all-male version of The View with me as the moderator. Just guys from different perspectives discussing the news of the week, and we're going to have a special guest every week. So it's a weekly new show that we're going to be premiering. Very excited about that. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us to be able to show that, us guys can come together. We can talk about things. We can agree to disagree, but also be able to share different perspectives and encourage other people to have conversations as well. So that's one of the new things we're going to be announcing toward the end of November, but it will premiere the last week of December. It's called The Conversation.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I'm excited for that as well. Okay, any final words you have for our audience, and make sure you let them know how to stay connected with you.
Sure. Well, thanks again, Melissa, for a great interview. Really enjoyed myself. The last thing I would say is this: don't give up on yourself. Maybe you haven't achieved what you thought you would in 2023. Maybe you're not the version of yourself you hope to be in 2023, but you have today. As a suicide attempt survivor, I tell people any day you're here is a day to get started. So don't take advantage of that. Don't miss the opportunities that can come with that day. Take full advantage of it, and that way you'll definitely win. You can definitely stay connected with me at cyruswebb.com. It's CYRUSWEBB.com. That'll lead you to all my social media and everything, including where you can stay connected with me on Amazon. Again, cyruswebb.com.
Well, thank you again, Cyrus, for joining us today. And thank you to our audience for tuning in to this very special episode of Dream by Design with Melissa Banks. I'm your host saying, all your dreams are possible. Believe in yourself, work hard, and don't quit. Until next time, you have an amazing day.